Slider Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. Glad you're here. What a night last night. We had a lot going on. We'll talk about the debate, obviously, but first, we got to start with the rally. So Trump's rally in Phoenix, we aired it live here on the 1st. There's another one tonight, which I will be anchoring as well, unless my wife goes into labor. Tomorrow's the due date. That could happen literally at any minute. But even if I'm not here tonight, we will still be airing the rally for Trump. Last night's rally was fantastic. Before the rally, so as everyone was coming in, getting ready, this video made the rounds. Look at those horrible Trump supporters. Just a grisly, unkempt bunch. Probably terrible people. Actually, certainly terrible people. They're at a Trump rally. You should, I don't know if you know, you should fear for your safety when you go to a Trump rally because it's full of people like that. Very, very dangerous. You saw that man with the disheveled beard, the other guy with the very violent biker jacket. Triggering. It's a triggering biker jacket. I mean, those two, that's a white supremacist uniform right there, if I've ever seen one. And there they were, carrying a World War II veteran down the stairs to his seat. So the president saw that video beforehand, and he wrote on Twitter, he said, "I'm on my way, see you soon." And he wrote that, sent that video, I retweeted that video. "I'm on my way." And this was one of the first things he did when he started his speech. Check this out.
It's all over TV that the folks here tonight have helped a great World War II veteran into the arena. I don't know if he knows it, but he's right now the hottest celebrity in the world. I don't know what's going on here. He might even be hotter than Trump right now, I have to say. Did you see the scene? No, he's all over television. Even fake news CNN had him on. But they say he's a legitimate great hero of World War II. Irvin Julian. Irvin, thank you.
Wow, look at that. How good is that? And you can see Irvin waving, brother. Are you kidding me? Now, that's just an objectively awesome moment. Just like that's as good as it gets. But if we want to analyze this from 30,000 feet, from more like a political perspective, that's unstoppable, right? Like that's what the Democrats are running against. You can't beat that. Who up on the debate stage yesterday could beat that? That type of showmanship. It's the same showmanship, stage presence that we saw at the State of the Union a couple weeks ago, right? Story after story after story like that. And like stories that make you tear up. So you compare that level of campaigning, right? Where Trump says, "Is there anything better than a Trump rally?" And everyone's like freaking out. Compare that level of campaigning with what the Democrats did yesterday. Not even close. Different planets. These guys don't stand a chance. Now, let's talk about the debate. Some fundamental points about the debate. First of all, very few people watch the entire thing. You'll hear the ratings. The ratings are going to come out later today. And the ratings, that's just how many people tuned in at a certain point, right? Very few people watch the whole thing. First of all, it starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. So I'm early to bed. My wife and I, we're up to bed at 8:30, right? I'm on the West Coast. So I could go to bed at 8:30 and still pretty much watch the end of the debate. But who's staying up past 11 to watch this thing, let alone the whole thing? So very few people watch the entire thing. So people come in and out of it. And that's important because 90% of people, more than that, who watch any of it only get little parts of it, right? So vast majority of people who watch it, there's no concept of, well, he's doing better than the beginning of the debate, or he had a lot of really good points earlier, so it's okay that he hasn't spoken for a while, or he's kind of floundering now, but better earlier he was better. like everyone's coming in and out and leaving right at any given moment. So a lot of the analysis you hear from pundits are pundits who watch the entire thing. So they're able to give this sweeping analysis of the entire debate night, like the whole 2 hours. But that doesn't match most people's experience because most people only tuned in for like 10 minutes. So I tuned in a little late. And there was like a 20-minute stretch where Joe Biden didn't talk. So if someone only watched that 20 minutes, Joe Biden doesn't even exist. So you maybe have someone who's talking about the whole debate and they bring in Biden, but to most people, like Biden wasn't even there. Similarly to that point, debates, they're all about moments. It's just the particular moments. You could have a few million people watch a given moment live, but the clip, like the clip we're gonna play here in a second of Warren just destroying Bloomberg, many more millions of people will see that clip the next day. So it's not even like who wins the debate. That's irrelevant, really. Like if you're tallying up points, doesn't matter. It's who gets the moment. And I think this is the moment. I think this is really the only thing really from the debate that mattered. So this was right out of the gate. Very first question, Bernie answered it, and then Elizabeth Warren took over.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another.
You want to know how Trump got out of that? Right? Megyn Kelly asked her a very similar question to Trump. You know what he said? Only Rosie O'Donnell. Boom. Gone. And what did Bloomberg do? So this is his follow-up. No, that's actually, it wasn't right next to each other. It was a little later in the debate, but Bloomberg was asked about all that. Look how horribly he handles this. So I wouldn't normally play his answer because it's kind of a long clip we're going to play here. Normally I would just paraphrase it and then play the follow-up, which is really the more important part of the clip. But I want to play the whole thing just so you can see how terrible Mike Bloomberg is in public. Like, no one's seen this guy talk. Like, if you live in New York City, you see this guy talk. If you live in the Northeast, maybe you've heard it. But most of the country's never, like Nevada? People in Nevada have never seen Mike Bloomberg ever talk. This is really one of the first times they've ever heard him open his mouth. And look how terrible he is. Now, as you're watching this, imagine Trump and Bloomberg on stage, right? Imagine Trump going on after Bloomberg on any issue, and this is how Bloomberg reacts.
Former employees have claimed that your company was a hostile workplace for women. When you were confronted about it, you admitted making sexually suggestive remarks, saying, quote, "That's the way I grew up." In a lawsuit in the 1990s, according to the Washington Post, one former female employee alleged that you said, quote, "I would do you in a second." Should Democrats expect better from their nominee?
Let me say a couple things, and if I can have my full minute and a quarter, thank you. I have no tolerance for the kind of behavior that the Me Too movement has exposed. And anybody that does anything wrong in our company, we investigate it, and if it's appropriate, they're gone that day. But let me tell you what I do in my company and my foundation and in city government when I was there. In my foundation, the person that runs it's a woman. 70% of the people there are women. In my company, lots and lots of women have big responsibilities. They get paid exactly the same as men. And in my in City Hall, the top person, my deputy mayor, was a woman, and 40% of our commissioners were women. I am very proud of the fact that about 2 weeks ago, we were awarded. We were voted the the best place to work, second best place in America. If that doesn't say something about our employees and how happy they are, I don't know what does.
Senator Warren, you've been critical of Mayor Bloomberg on this issue.
Yes, I have, and I hope you heard what his defense was. I've been nice to some women. That just doesn't cut it. the mayor has to stand on his record, and what we need to know is exactly what's lurking out there. He has gotten some number of women, dozens, who knows, to sign non-disclosure agreements, both for sexual harassment and for gender discrimination in the workplace. So, Mr. Mayor, are you willing to release all of those women from those non-disclosure agreements so we can hear their side of the story?
We have a very few non-disclosure agreements.
How many is that?
Let me finish.
How many is that?
None of them accuse me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told. And let me just point, there's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them. They signed those agreements, and we'll live with it.
So wait, when you say it is up to, I just want to be clear. Some is how many? And when you say they signed them and they wanted them, if they wish now to speak out and tell their side of the story about what it is they allege, that's now okay with you? You're releasing them on television tonight?
Senator? No.
Is that right?
Senator, the company and somebody else, in this case, a man or a woman, or could be more than that, they decided when they made an agreement that they wanted to keep it quiet for everybody's interest. They signed the agreements, and that's what we're going to live with.
I'm sorry. No, the question is, are the women bound by being muzzled by you?
Money can't buy everything. Right? That was so bad for him. How did he not know that was coming? How did none of his advisors said, hey, let's work off this answer for a minute? Wow. I love how he does this like noble, listen, we signed the agreement and I'm gonna uphold my end of it. And it's like, yeah, that's we know you're not gonna tell. Are you gonna let those people tell their stories? Gosh, that was so awful. Also, what was this line he said? We've had a man or a woman or it could be more than that. What are you talking about? It could be more than that. I don't even know what that, what are you talking about? You know how Trump handled it? Nobody has more respect for women than I do. That's how he came out from the similar accusation, right? Nobody has more respect for women than I do. And then just moved on, right? That's how you handle that, not this, I don't even know why Bloomberg wanted to be in this debate. I said this for a while, I don't know, because remember we talked earlier about, last week or yesterday, about Bloomberg, he's getting rich people to donate to the Democratic Party so the Democrats can use that money to spend on whatever campaign they want. And he's using that to try to get to, so that the Democrats would change the rules so he would get in the debate. And that was his plan, but I'm like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to be there? No one can even vote for him for another 2 weeks till March 3rd, until Super Tuesday. So much can happen between now and March 3rd. His numbers were already going up. Why would he want to stop that? Why would you want to be there? Bloomberg's so bad. And in person, we said he's so bad in person. He made every other 70-year-old on stage look youthful. He made every other 70-year-old on stage come alive. Someone on Twitter said that Bloomberg is it's like an episode of Jerry Springer, right? They have all the guests on, and then things start to get boring. So then they bring on that one last guest to come on and just rile everyone up, right? They bring on the stripper who the guy cheated with, and then everyone's throwing chairs again. That's what Bloomberg was last time. He brought everyone else alive. He brought the best out of everyone else, not him. Now, to be fair, he did have one good moment. He's the only person, Bloomberg is the only person who's willing to say anything bad about Bernie, because he's not trying to get the Bernie bros. He's not trying to get the Bernie supporters on his side, because he just won't. Right? It's not going to happen, so he doesn't have to play he can just come out hard, right? All the other candidates, they don't want to hurt the feelings of the Bernie supporters, so they don't ever say anything about Bernie. They don't say, you're a communist, because they want all the communist voters to vote for him. But Bloomberg's not even trying to get those people, so he's the only person who's attacked Bernie. He's the first person. Here's what he said.
What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, House 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, House 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that. Where is your home? Which tax haven do you have your home?
New York City, thank you very much, and I pay all my taxes.
First of all, Bernie's camp is a $600,000 lake house. So we'll talk more about that one in a segment coming up here. But what that moment there showed, it's Bloomberg's next plan for the next 2 weeks. He's spent all of his money so far attacking Trump. So he spent about $400 million, I think more than $400 million, attacking Trump. So now for the next few weeks, he's going to spend another $400 million attacking all those other Democrats. So have fun, guys. Compare all that chaos from the debate last night with this clip right here. This is a shot from outside of Trump's rally. Check out that crowd. That's not the rally. That's the overflow. Can you guys play that again? That's the overflow crowd watching Trump's rally on a screen outside. That's insane. None of those candidates can go up against that. Tim Alberta is the chief political correspondent at Politico. He said it is nearly impossible to envision this Democratic primary campaign unfolding in any way that could possibly be more beneficial to Donald Trump. We have a guest coming up next. We're going to do a little more post-debate analysis. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders, friendly reminder, tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern, we're going to carry Trump's rally live. So if you watched the debate yesterday and you missed Trump's rally in Phoenix, he's going to put on another great show tonight, I'm sure. I want to talk about Bernie's greed here, but before we do that, this is, like, you can't make this up. So this is the Washington Post. The slogan of the Washington Post is, democracy dies in darkness, right? So it's at the top. You can buy the newspaper, and it's like the fancy script, Washington Post, and then underneath it is the slogan, right? Democracy dies in darkness. So it's at the top of every newspaper. It's at the top of their website. So Washington Post, they had a headline yesterday. So Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness, and then this headline right here. It's time to give the elites a bigger say in choosing the president. Isn't that amazing? Democracy dies in darkness, followed by more darkness, please. What we need is less democracy, more darkness. That's how desperate the Democrats are right now. They're starting to throw out there this idea of, the people, I don't. No. More elites. We need more elites to choose who's going to win. Good night. So right after that, they changed the headline. They changed the headline to, it's time to switch to preference primaries or something like that because their hypocrisy was showing. All right, I want to talk about greed. We need to better define it, better understand it, and apply it. So last week we played the famous Milton Friedman clip where he said, of course, he's the greedy one. Right? It's only other people who are greedy, not you. You're never greedy. It's only the other guy. I should note that Paul, in the Bible, he did not say that money is the root of all evils. He said the love of money is the root of all evils. It's an important distinction. Money can be used for good. It's the love of it that's a problem because you can't serve two masters. George Gilder, who's an economist, co-founder of the Discovery Institute, he wrote this book in 1992, and he put this quote in here about greed. He said, the truly greedy seek goods and clout that they have not earned. Because the best and safest way to gain unearned pay is through government action to take it from others, greed leads as by an invisible hand toward ever more government action, to socialism, not capitalism. Socialism is simply the conspiracy of the greedy to exploit the productive. There's something really interesting about Bernie Sanders that's very different from the other candidates. He never says anything about his life, right? All the other candidates, even if they have to make it up, right? All the other candidates, they try and spin this narrative of their past life, right? Right now, it's really popular to be as poor as possible growing up and then work really hard to make yourself into something, right? Even if you were middle class your whole life, like that's why Hillary Clinton had to say after the White House, we were dead broke, right? Because you got to be poor in order to get your street cred, and now you are, right? So, but even if you got to make that up, that's what they do. But Bernie never says anything about his childhood. He never says anything about his life growing up. That story that we shared last week of him being a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, that was the beginning of his path towards becoming a communist. That's really the only insight that he's ever given about his life, that he was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. But 2015, Politico went on a journey to try to figure out more about this guy. And I want to quote a little bit of this article here. So it talks about, at first it talks to a woman who lived around the corner from Bernie in Vermont when they were both a part of the Socialist Party in Vermont. The name of the Socialist Party was Liberty United. Right? So here's what it says. Stark and dark, said Darcy Troville. Stark and dark, that's his apartment. Stark and dark, a fellow Liberty Unionite who lived around the corner and shared with Sanders homemade jellies and jams. The electricity was turned off a lot, another person said. I remember him running an extension cord down to the basement. He couldn't pay his bills. I want to be clear, running an extension cord down to the basement, that means he was stealing electricity. He was stealing electricity from someone else because he couldn't pay his bills. He worked some as a carpenter, although, quote, he was a blank carpenter. So if someone were a good carpenter, maybe you would call him a gritty carpenter. I don't know, like he works really hard. Not gritty, rhymes with gritty. He was a not good carpenter. Are you with me? That's the type of carpenter he was. He was a blank carpenter. Someone else told me his carpentry, another person told, was not going to support him and didn't. So he was a freelance writer, did a little freelance writing for like some nothing weeklies in Vermont, paid 10 cents a word. He was always poor, another friend told me in Burlington. Virtually unemployed, said another one who was a political science professor. Just one step above hand to mouth, said another person who was involved. This isn't just one person who has an out against Bernie. It's like a bunch of people here. Just one step above hand to mouth, said another person who was involved with Liberty Union, served his times as a de facto campaign manager, and at one point crashed on his couch for a couple of months. He was on unemployment. Bernie was on unemployment for a few months in 1971. In subsequent campaigns, he advocated for, quote, the doing away with all time limitations for unemployment benefits. So would I. Why not, right? Just unemployment forever. This pesky time limitation. You mean I can only be on unemployment for 2 years? Come on, why not? I don't know. Forever. Now, that was Bernie then. Now he has a net worth of $2.5 million. And the three houses came up in the debate yesterday. But I want to focus on these early years of his life. Bernie Sanders was greedy. He is greedy. He's always greedy. He's greedy. Now, just to be clear, so am I. I think way too much about money. I think too much about it. I'm very stingy, not as generous as I should be. But here's, if I may, here's the difference. Back to Gilder. He said, the greedy smear their betters with the claim of avarice that they themselves deserve. Right? So Sanders and I were both greedy, but he goes around and calls everyone else greedy, but never him. He's generous. Now, of course, he's generous when he wants to take your money and give it to someone else. But you're the bad, greedy person for wanting to keep your own money. You see how that works? AOC and Bernie, they keep talking about how billionaires shouldn't exist. Quick side note, we should pause for a moment when people in power are talking about people who should or should not be allowed to exist. Right? It's kind of you'd think that'd be a problem. But anyway, Sanders goes around, he talks about all the CEOs are greedy, Jeff Bezos, and all the rest. Here's what Gilder says about that. He says, far from greedy, America's leading entrepreneurs, with some exceptions, display discipline and self-control, hard work and austerity that exceeds that of anyone in Washington. They're a strange riffraff because they, the CEOs, are chosen not by blood, credentials, education, or services to the government. They're chosen for performance alone, for service to consumers. Bernie has never had to provide service to consumers ever in his life. And you'd think that in a rational world, you'd think that would be a disqualifying if you're trying to run for president. But these days, at least in the Democratic Party, that's something that oddly makes you more qualified. Be very careful giving power over to greedy people. Also be very careful giving your power over to megalomaniacs. And that's what I want to talk about next with Mayor Bloomberg, from an article back in 2009 from Christopher Hitchens about how Bloomberg wrote and enforced all these nitpicky little laws all around New York City. And when he's president, he's going to want to do that across the entire country as well. Banning big gulps is it's simple. That's the most known thing. That's just the beginning. We'll tell that story coming up next. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Bienvenidos, Slater Crusaders. Hola, ¿cómo están? That's all I got. Me llamo Miguel. Actually, in Spanish class, in high school, I took Spanish class. We went to a very prestigious high school. I don't know, did your school offer Spanish? I think I was one of the only schools. And my name was Diego Sanchez. Me llamo Diego Sanchez. That's a story I've never told, because who cares? But you know where I would never tell that to? A room full of Hispanic people. Here's Amy Klobuchar telling that story to a group of people who not only are Hispanic, but she thinks are deaf.
About me, my name is Amy, and when I took Spanish in 4th grade, my name was Elena. They gave me the name me llamo Elena because I couldn't roll my R's very, very well, and so it was E-L-E-N-A. And I first, my story is this.
This is just the music I listen to all the time. You don't listen to mariachi music? She's like, hey everyone, here's my iPad. Here's my iPod music. Love this mariachi music. Like, what's the point of that story, Elena? Where's your punchline? I love how she talks to them like hello, everybody. Like, why are you doing that? Can you think of anything more condescending than that move right there? These people are so clueless, absolutely clueless. What aide said, hey, Amy, got to start off with that Elena story. You told us that Elena story the other day. Oh, man, we were cracking up. They'll love it. All the Hispanic people there will love it if you tell them you can't roll your R's. They'll think it's hilarious. Gosh, these people are so clueless. No charisma at all, no understanding of how it works. And they think they can go against Trump. You think you're going to go against Trump with that story? We kicked off the show with the story of Trump with the World War II vet, carrying down the stairs and everything. You're going to go against Trump with that story? No Democrat thinks they can. No Democrat thinks that any of these candidates can go up against Trump, which is why they feel this potential desire to go with an even richer New Yorker, Mike Bloomberg. They think that's, we'll get him with that. Christopher Hitchens wrote a really funny article in Vanity Fair in 2009 about New York City and Michael Bloomberg. And he starts off with this story of a guy who owns a Chinese restaurant. And he said, Hitchens said, like everyone else, he has been deprived of the choice of allowing his customers to smoke because he lives under a city government that knows better about what's good for him and his clients. We played a clip the other day of Bloomberg saying people don't know what's best for them. Right? That's like max elitism. Remember we did a segment about elitism? And the picture of elitism is Michael Bloomberg, right? And it's saying, most people don't know what's better for them, but I do, right? So this is a perfect example of that. So anyway, this Chinese restaurant guy, he had the smoker step outside. But there's also no smoking allowed in New York City outside under an awning. So he's standing outside under an awning. So the owner was fined $200 even though the awning was retracted at the time. He fought the ruling and he won in court, but it cost him $2,000 in legal fees and everything, not to mention time lost, to fight that $200 ticket in Mayor Bloomberg's New York. Check out this quote from Hitchens. He says, in fact, the law these days is very clear. It states that New York City is now the domain of the mediocre bureaucrat, of the inspector with too much time on his hands, of the anal retentive cop with his nose in a rule book, of the snitch willing to drop a dime on a harmless fellow citizen, and of a mayor who is the most pathetic pathetic and annoying figure, the megalomaniac. And by the way, again, this was 2009, so the use of the word micro was not purposefully used in that sense. We have a new sense for micro now, because he's Bloomberg, very short, tiny man, a micro of a man. He's a megalomaniac. So in the space of a few hours late November, I managed to break a whole slew of New York City laws. That is to say, I sat on an upended milk crate. I put my bag next to me on the subway seat. I paused to adjust my shoe walking up the subway steps. I fed some birds in Central Park. I had a cigarette in a town car. I attempted to put a plastic frame around a car license plate. And I rode a bicycle without keeping my feet on the pedals at all time. That's a true story. Policemen interviewed recently have confirmed that they are under orders to spot riders who take their feet off the pedals or who have no bell on their bicycle. He chose all those laws to break very purposely because Bloomberg's New York has fined people for doing these things. One Israeli tourist fell asleep on the subway, slumped over, and took up 2 seats, got a $50 ticket. Welcome to America. A pregnant woman was climbing the stairs out of a subway station. She got tired, took a seat on the steps just for a second to catch her breath. She wasn't in the way of anybody. She got a ticket for that. You think he was joking about the milk crates? Jesse Taveras worked at a barber shop. He was sitting outside of his shop on an upside-down milk crate. He got fined $105 for unauthorized use of a milk crate. There's no defense for this. You know, people are talking about, Bloomberg's stop and frisk stuff. And that's bad. We can talk about that too. But this is bad too. Going around picking on law-abiding people, normal, regular people trying to live their life. So the only explanation, the closest explanation that anyone can give for this is that this is Bloomberg's version of the broken windows policy, right? So broken windows says that if you're anywhere where there's an obvious sign of lawlessness, then that leads to more lawlessness. So you got a subway car that's full of graffiti, that's just gonna lead to more graffiti and then more other higher level criminal things because of that, right? So Rudy Giuliani said, we gotta clean up the graffiti. And therefore, that won't attract more chaos and more crime, right? So that's what Rudy did to clean up New York City, and things got a lot better because of it. So Bloomberg, he's gonna keep it going, right? So Bloomberg's his next steps. Here's what Hitchens says. He says, but excuse me, that, the broken window stuff of the past, that was directed at people making a nuisance of themselves by wielding squeegees at intersections or panhandling with an attitude or offering their bodies for sale at unwanted moments or locations or for jumping over turnstiles. The current Niagara of pettiness and random victimization may well be Bloomberg's attempt at a wannabe reputation as a heroic crime fighter and disciplinarian. I think that's part of it too, right? Look at me, look how tough on crime I am. Oh yeah, what have you done? See that man over there? That guy sitting down outside of the barbershop. No, the man's sitting on an upside down milk crate. We can't have that. Find that man. What is that? And who knows who knows what goes on in the tiny constipated chambers of his mind. All we know for certain is that one of the world's most broad-minded and open cities is now in the hands of a pick-nosed control freak. And this is the guy that the Democrats might choose to be their nominee, or at least he's the flavor of the month, right? But the debate yesterday, people could finally see Bloomberg for what he really is, right? And now they can see how he's nothing. Trump wasn't just rich. That's the thing. So we started off saying they have their version. The Democrats think they're so desperate. They're we got to beat Trump, first priority. So let's put up our version of Trump. We've explored that a lot the last couple of weeks. So who do we got? Well, Bloomberg's from New York City and he's rich. So let's put him up. He'll beat Trump at Trump's game. It'll never work because Trump wasn't just rich. He was hilarious. Did you watch the rally yesterday? If you missed yesterday's, watch tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be playing his rally live, right? It's a hilarious stand-up bit for 90 minutes. He's super likable. Until he ran for president, everyone in New York City loved him. Even my mom loved him. My mom My mom has Trump derangement syndrome. She's a Democrat. I don't even know who she likes in this. I should probably ask her. Although we have a no politics rule in the family since Trump won. But everyone, like my mom loved Trump. Everyone loved Trump. Even Bloomberg. There was clips from him in 2012 saying he's friends with Donald because he's a New York icon. Trump has charisma. He had a massive brand. He was on The Apprentice for 15 seasons. Where tens of millions of people saw him as the boss in a tall leather chair, making decisions and firing losers. He was already presidential for 15 seasons. He had policy positions. People mocked him for having no policy, but that's not true. He was pro-business, anti-immigration. He had policy stances, right? Republicans could grab onto things that he was fighting for. And here's the other, maybe the most important thing. He took on his party. Trump did. Trump took on the Republican establishment. He spoke against the establishment. Bloomberg has and is doing none of this. He's not taking on the establishment. He has no policy positions whatsoever. He's not a well-known, likable brand. No one says, oh, Bloomberg, he's the richest man in New York City, but no one says, oh, Michael Bloomberg, he's a New York icon. No one ever say that. He's none of those things. And even his slogan is super narcissistic. Do you know his slogan? Mike will get it done. Right? That's no different than Hillary's narcissistic, I'm with her. Right? It's all about me, 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 me. What's Trump's slogan? Make America great again. Right? So for everyone saying that Trump's such an egomaniac, wouldn't you think his slogan would be, Trump will get it done? Vote for Trump. Trump is awesome. Trump's the man. I'm with Trump. It's not that. It's make America great again. Call me when Bloomberg starts filling up arenas with tens of thousands of people for stand-up comedy night for 90 minutes. But as John Davidson said, it's not going to happen because as John Davidson said, until recently, most Americans knew him as the New York City mayor who tried to ban big gulps. I want to share this fact here. I got to run here, but let me share this fact about how much money he has and he spent. He could get, so this was during his mayor's race. Last time he ran for mayor. He could give every New Yorker $1,000 and still be the richest man in New York City. Think about that. When I first read that fact, I was thinking, okay, he could give $1,000 to everyone in New York City and still have some left over. Like, that's what I thought it was gonna be like. He could still have money for lunch. But no, get $1,000, you get everyone, and still be the richest guy in New York City. David Koch at the time was the second richest. He'd still be richer than David Koch. So we've talked before about how he's trying to buy this election. He's buying endorsements. He's buying silence. He bought his way onto the debate stage. He's buying all the ads, obviously. He's buying attention. He's buying better polls. You can buy everything, but you can't buy votes. We've been saying that. But then I was thinking, well, I don't know. Can you buy votes? So I did a little back of the napkin math. So 2016 primary, Hillary had, in California, Hillary had 2.7 million votes. Bernie had 2.3 million. So let's say Bloomberg wants 3 million votes for the Democratic primary in California, which is March 3rd. He could pay every voter $100, and it would only cost him $300 million. I say only now, for every other candidate, that'd be like an insane amount of money. But he's already spent over $400 million in just the last couple months in advertising. So you could pay everyone $100. He could pay everyone in California, every Democratic voter $100, and still, and it'd be nothing. It'd be zero. Like, let me share one quick thing about buying silence, because I don't think we've mentioned this one yet. So because yesterday I think we talked about endorsements, but he also buys silence. So there's a story where he passed some law about charging homeless people rent for living in certain shelters. I don't know the details of it, but that's not the point. The point is, there's a group against it. There's a homeless charity that was against it. And this person says, people were just outraged by that policy. But no one else would take a stand. No one would take a stand against it for fear of alienating their most important donor, Mike Bloomberg. He's given over a decade, when he was mayor, he gave over $3 billion to different charities around town. $3 billion. So here's what the person says. We would find it very hard at times to get other groups to stand with us. When we were doing a press conference in front of City Hall or engaged in a legal action or whenever we were doing rallies, I talked to my colleagues and pretty frankly, they would say, look, we agree with you. We're on your side. But he's a critical donor. And we can't afford to lose that kind of money. So Bloomberg's bought the endorsements, but maybe more importantly, he's also bought silence. He's bought silence from critics. And he's bought the illusion of being a front runner. And people are very influenced by what they think other people are doing. That's how advertising works, right? You gotta buy this because everyone else is doing it. So he's created this perception of being the obvious frontrunner, and that's why I don't know why he wanted to do this debate, because now everyone got to see him and be like, oh, that doesn't match up with every ad I've seen nonstop for the last couple weeks. He's not going to be able to keep that going because he's like a wet rag. So like Mark Cuban, like the Democrats would need someone who's not only rich, but also has some sort of personality. So Mark Cuban, right? He's got a net worth of $4 billion, so it's $1 billion more than Trump. So you need someone like that, right? Someone with some charisma and some policy position. Check out this video from Trump's rally yesterday. This is what these Democrats are up against. Are you kidding me? Look at that. That's Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Phoenix. Like 20,000 people there. Do you see the megalomaniac Bloomberg ever pulling a crowd like that? Not a chance. This is going to be a fun few months for Donald Trump. We'll be back tomorrow. The show will be back tomorrow. But tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern, we're going to be hosting Trump's rally. So if you missed yesterday's rally, which was fantastic, he's going to put on another great show tonight. So we'll see you at 7 o'clock tonight for that. True story, Mike Slater. Spread the word.